we are going through Exodus right now, and I made a fancy graphic because that's what I do. Someone asked for a timeline so we could understand where we are, and look at that. That is the extent of my graphic skills right there. So the Exodus journey so far, we had the birth of Moses the first week, and then Moses flees to Midian when he's an adult, so maybe around 40 years old. So that's about 40 years in between chapter 1 and chapter 2. Then about another 40 years after that is the burning bush, where Moses is on Mount Horeb, and he meets God in this burning bush. So he's like 80 years old by now. Then Moses comes back, and there's the story of him with Pharaoh and the plagues. About maybe a year later, we don't really know, maybe a year later is when they're free. They cross the Red Sea. Last week we looked at the manna and the water from the rock. And now we are in the story about 3 months after leaving Egypt. So this is now like over 81 years or so since the whole story began. Israel is at Mount Sinai. And I wanted to put some years on there because, again, sometimes we can read these stories and we think like God was like acting like one after the other. And then we look at our lives and we're like, God, why does it take so long? Right? God, why does it seem like nothing's happening? But you realize all those events took like 80 some odd years to all happen. Never mind the 400 years that Israel was in Egypt to begin with, right? This is a long period of time. This is, a lifetime for many of us that this is going on. And so it's just a reminder that God is at work even when we don't see him at work. And sometimes it can take 40 years of us being out shepherding sheep like Moses before all of a sudden he shows up in a burning bush. And so that's what brings us now in Exodus to Mount Sinai. And the Exodus journey's come full circle now, right? Because Mount Horeb, where Moses met God in the burning bush, is just another name for Mount Sinai, where Israel now is. We are all the way back to where this story began of Moses being called by God. This is the same mountain. I don't know why it has two names, but it is the same mountain, which is, I think, kind of cool. Where Moses once was shepherding sheep on this mountain, now Moses is shepherding Israel. He's shepherding his people to this mountain to once again meet God in there. And so they come to this mountain, they come to this presence of God, and we get to Exodus 19, 1-6, which says, on the first day of the third month after the Israelites left Egypt, on that very day they came to the desert of Sinai. And after they set out from Rephidim, they entered the desert of Sinai, and Israel camped there in the desert in front of the mountain. Then Moses went up to God, and the Lord called to him from the mountain and said, this is what you are to say to the descendants of Jacob, and what you are to tell the people of Israel. You yourselves have seen what I did to Egypt, and how I carried you on eagle's wings, and brought you to myself. Now, if you obey me fully and keep my covenant, then out of all nations you will be my treasured possession. Although the whole earth is mine, you will be for me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words you are to speak to the Israelites. So he brings them there, and he says, if you now keep my covenant, if you will follow these ways, then I will make you my treasured possession. But it's important for us to always remember the order of this, because so often we get the order backwards. We think, Israel has to, keep the covenant and follow God's ways, and then they will be saved and they'll be okay. But that's not the order things have happened in, right? First came God's deliverance. God has already brought them out of slavery. He has already redeemed them. He has made them a free people. And now out of that freedom, out of that salvation, the choice is now theirs. Do you want to follow me? I've brought you to this place. I have saved you. I have delivered you. I have made you free. Now the choice is up to yours. Do you want to follow me? And there's a real freedom in that, isn't there? Because so often we get it backwards, and we almost can use it as like manipulation of, if you follow these ways, if you do what I want you to do, then I will bring you freedom, right? And we can do that in so many ways in our own lives of, if I get something from you first, then I will give blessing to you. But for God, the blessing comes first, the freedom comes first, the salvation comes first. And then now a choice is presented to them. Do you want to follow me? Do you want to be in a relationship? A covenant is this kind of relationship between the two. Do you want to be in this relationship with me? And if they choose to, if they want to join God in this journey, then God says, I will make you my treasured possession. And you will be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. And it's so fascinating, this passage. What does it mean that Israel is now going to be a kingdom of priests, a royal priesthood? And really, a holy nation is just saying the same thing again. I think it's actually the same thing. A holy nation and a kingdom of priests are the same idea. God is offering this. And what does that mean? See, here's the fascinating thing about the passage. Often when we think of a treasured possession, we think of something that we want to keep safe, right? We want to guard it. We don't want it to go out. We kind of sometimes keep it hidden away. I talked about my watch that was my grandfather's watch, and I always try and keep it safe. I make sure I only wear it on occasions where it won't get banged up. I'm not going to wear this watch to the gym or out, hiking, because it might get scratched, it might get hurt. I want to protect it. Or other possessions, right? We want to keep them safe. We want to hide them away. We want to watch over them. If we think of, theoretically, if someone had a favorite child, and I don't, I love all my children the same. We used to have this book called You're All My Favorites. And we always called it You're All My Fritz, because that's how our kids pronounced it. And it was one of their favorite books of how all three little bears were all their favorites. There was no more favorite than the other. But in culture, right, when we think of this is my favorite child, or this is my favorite, whatever, best friend, it's something we want to protect, right? And usually they're the spoiled child that we just give everything to, right? And we hold them away, or we just let them have the easy life. We don't put any expectations on them because they're the spoiled favorite child. And that's how earthling thinking we often think of it. But that's not how God thinks. To be the treasured possession of God, to be the special child of God, is actually the opposite. He doesn't hide you away and keep you safe. He gives you a mission and sends you out. Right? Israel is going to be a treasured possession. The firstborn, they are the firstborn son of God. And because they are so treasured, they are now going to be given a mission to be a royal priesthood. And what does that mean? It means they are now going to be given a mission to be sent out to be priests to all the nations of the world. They are not going to be held back. They're not going to be hidden away. They're actually going to be put out there to be a shining example of what it means to follow God, to be a possession of God. And their calling is to go and minister to all the nations around them, creating a meeting place between people and God. That a priestly role was to create that nexus, that spot where people could come and meet the living God. That was the calling of Israel, that people would see them, come to them, and they would introduce them to this living, almighty God. And they're supposed to be, again, a royal priesthood. And again, our thinking of royalty is, royalty just sits back. They just sit there eating their nice fancy food. Or, they don't really do a whole lot. They're the royals. Everyone serves them. But again, not in God's kingdom, right? The royalty in God's kingdom goes and leads the battle. David was always supposed to go and lead the nation into the battle. David was the one who's supposed to lead, supposed to take care of, make sure everything was done. Moses, right, grew up in royalty, and Moses is the one who is out there leading the people of Israel, making sure that they get food, interceding between God and the people to make sure food came, the water came, to make sure they were judged over well. Any complicated case, Moses would judge to make sure justice was always done. Royalty in God's kingdom, again, is not about sitting back. It's about leading, about shepherding, about helping people, again, meet with God. See, Israel's status as this treasured possession wasn't about them being a spoiled nation. It was about them being sent out to be a shining example and to help the other nations come and know God. This is why God says, if you obey my voice and keep my covenant, you will be my special possession. It's not because the obedience creates something special in them or makes them special. It's because they have to be obedient in order to perform their priestly duties. Right? You get that? They have to be obedient. They have to know who God is in order to be a priest for God. Example. I need Google Maps because I am awful at directions. Thank you. I don't know who that was. Thank you. Right? If you come to me for directions and I don't have Google Maps, I am not getting you to the right place. The Google Maps is like the obedience that God is expecting that helps them know where to go. I have lived here for 10 years, and I know there is a neighborhood called 6 Mile, but if you came and asked me how to get to 6 Mile, you are going to be lost. I know it's somewhere on the south side, I think. Is it on the south side? Yes, see? That is the extent of my knowledge of where 6 Mile is. I'm pretty sure I've even been to 6 Mile, but I still don't know where it is. If I am not obedient to God, I might know vaguely what I'm supposed to do, but I won't be able to help people connect to who God is. I won't be able to help direct people to meeting where God is. The obedience is what enables us to help people connect with the living God. That is why God says, if you're going to be obedient, if you're going to join in my covenant, then you can be a treasure possession. Because they cannot perform their priestly duties without first being connected to God and knowing his ways. It's like trying to find 6 miles without a map or a wife who knows where things are. Right? She's my navigator. Yeah, I'm sorry. And see, here's the cool thing. We read the story of Israel, that Israel is supposed to be this royal priesthood. But as I'm sure some of you know, those exact words are also going to be used of us in the New Testament. Right? 1 Peter 2:9. But you, and this is to all of us here, you are a chosen people. You are a royal priesthood, a holy nation. You are God's special possession, that you may declare the praises of him who called you out of darkness and into his wonderful light. This passage is in the midst of Peter telling us how we need to be obedient, how we need to submit to God, how we need to be humble. The reason why? Because we are also that royal priesthood. We are also called to be obedient so that we can make that connection and help people connect with the living God. The living God who can wash away any sin. The living God who can wash away those pasts and make them clean, or wash away and redeem the past so we can be those compassionate people where God can redeem our past, and now it gives hope to others and we become beacons of hope and not slaves to what has happened to us in the past. We now are the children of God, and it's an incredible privilege to be the children of God. But here's the thing, right, about being children. Children need to obey their parents, right? Children are called to obey their parents. We are children, which means we are also called to obey our Father. Just because we're a special, treasured possession, just because we are royalty, doesn't mean we need to go just do whatever we want. We are called to a lifestyle of listening to our Heavenly Father, of obeying Him, and we get all these incredible privileges added on. But all of them are for the purpose of reaching out and connecting with people, and reaching out to people and connecting them to the living God. That is what we are called to do. We are called to be obedient. I don't know how you've met Mesfin before. Mesfin, my brother, I love this guy. Mesfin and I met this week, and we decided, and we were talking about God and what God's doing and what He's calling us to do. And as we were chatting, we realized, you know what? We just need to get together regularly and pray. And we decided, you know what? Saturday mornings at 8 o'clock, we're going to come and pray. And then we decided it shouldn't just necessarily be the two of us praying. So all of you are invited. Anyone who would like to come and join us 8 o'clock on Saturday mornings, we're going to meet here and we're just going to pray. And we talk about being uncomfortable. I'm going to be uncomfortable because there is no agenda to this prayer. There is no structure to what we're doing. I don't know. There's no we're going to pray about this topic. We're just going to meet and we're going to pray. And I don't know how long it's going to be. Mesfin warned me that once he gets going, he doesn't stop. So we might be here all morning. But I invite you to come and pray, because it's through prayer that we learn obedience. It's through prayer that we hear God speaking to us. And so if you're interested at 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning, come on out. Come stay for 5 minutes. Come stay for an hour. I don't know how long we will be here. There is no structure. There is no you have to stay the whole time. If you want to just come and then you need to leave and go, that's fine. We're just going to pray and see what God's doing. And we invite you to join us in just praying whatever and listening to whatever God's doing, because we want to be obedient children to the voice of God. And we want to be those obedient children to the voice of God so that we can then actually be the priesthood that God has called us to do. To be that priesthood where we are connecting people with the living God. Whether that looks like Laura was saying before, maybe God's calling us to give a ride to someone, to drive them to a hospital, drive them for groceries. Maybe that is what that connection of serving as a priesthood looks like. Maybe it's about praying with someone. Maybe it's about speaking some words with someone. That is what we are called to do, to create those nexus points of connection between people in the living God. And that's why we're going to practice a little bit now of what it looks like to be a priesthood ministering to one another. And so this is where I'm going to invite you. We kind of did a little bit before. We started before the message of giving thanks to people around us of what God's been doing. Now I want us to take a moment and have us be priests to one another. To be a priest where we are helping people to connect with living God. To pray with the person around you. To pray for them, to maybe listen to what God is saying and pray that over them, or encourage, maybe God's giving them an encouraging word. And there's no better place to start that than practicing it here, because hopefully we have a lot of grace for one another here. And then we take from what we learn here and practice here, and we can start doing it outside of here as well. Where all of a sudden we are meeting someone, and maybe we just start praying, Lord, what do you want me to do in this situation? Lord, I can feel you leading me to do something. What am I supposed to do? And we remember back to hopefully this moment of oh yeah, I'll say a prayer for this person. Or I will offer them a ride. Or I will buy them a jug of milk. Okay? So this is, again, remember I said we're going to be uncomfortable sometimes? We all get to be a little uncomfortable right now. Well, for some people, I'm sure they are very thrilled right now. I'm looking at Barb. Barb loves praying for people. So why don't we take a moment, gather around the people around you, and just spend some time just praying for them. And then we're going to enter into communion.